Actually, I have my origins scholastically at the University of British Columbia, where they have a unique interdisciplinary graduate studies program, and that got me interested in political theory around caregiving. And caregiving is such an important political concept in many ways. Many would argue today it remains the source of why there's a glass ceiling, or there's a gender pay gap, or we don't have as many women in politics. Well, the impacts are that we now see the children of what I would call Generation X, those who are the 25 to 44-year-old age category in their prime child-rearing years. Their kids now are having to operate in a context where their family is struggling with this significant decline in the standard of living. And my colleagues at the Human Early Learning Partnership pick up that almost a third of them are vulnerable as they reach kindergarten. Well, what we do is we've been able to follow kids from kindergarten to grade 4, from grade 4 to 7, and then we follow a group of kids from grade 7 into do they finish high school or the criminal justice system. So we can tell how when young kids of the generation squeeze are vulnerable as they get to kindergarten, what does that mean for their later life trajectories? The real brain drain is in actually allowing kids to be vulnerable and not maximize their early brain development before they get to kindergarten, because it compromises their school success. It means they're less likely to be a strong labor market employee down the road. It's a compromise of our human capital. And over their working lives, literally right now, the net present value of what we're throwing away is $400 billion just in BC alone. And so what we need to do is say, if we're going to spend it there, let's stop spending it there and let's put it into something productive, like early learning and childcare, like this parental leave. It's also taking a step back, like what are the policy determinants that create more equality, that create better parental time in the early years of a citizen's life so that we can get them off to the best start, and then because they have a good start, they stay healthy longer. So if no one's talking about the issue so far, how do we get people mobilized to talk about it? Well, indeed, that happens to be one of the strengths of being a researcher at UBC. Because UBC prides itself on doing fantastic research that will have an international reputation, and so we should. And it prides itself on being fantastic at teaching traditionally in the classroom here on campus. But one of the things that I think makes UBC's place and promise strategy unique is it has a simultaneous commitment to devote faculty time to raise awareness in the broader community, to make us relevant locally in Vancouver, provincially, nationally, and globally. UBC has this very interesting take on teaching. On the one hand, it talks about direct interaction with people in classrooms. And then it talks about how do faculty members create intellectual spaces on campus. And that's what the Human Early Learning Partnership does. We have affiliates, faculty affiliates, spread all throughout the university. Those faculty members will bring their students into our help meetings, into our help retreats, and we really purposefully select topics that we can expose students to in a very interdisciplinary environment. So that someone in education is learning about neurogenomics, someone in neurogenomics is learning about what's going on in education, and that's part of our process. And what we do is we schedule an entire day. The day features generally 4 sessions. Each session invites someone at the Human Early Learning Partnership or an affiliate to speak for 10 minutes. To start off a conversation, because these retreats are designed to be a dialogue between those there, and not just a standard, here's 45 minutes, let me talk at you, and we have 5 for questions. No, it has to be a place where people can carry the conversation as the audience members. And it's really important, these retreats. We tend to try and feature something around what's going on cellularly in children's brain development or in their immune systems and so on. And then we try and think about what's going on in a neighborhood or a place across the country. And then we try and break it out and think more broadly about what's going on in policy and how does Canada compare to other countries. And then the last session, very purposefully, is, and how do we plan to take this outside of the university and bring it to community, and how do you share it in an effective way? So every month we are purposefully sitting down and devoting time to think about how are we effective off campus. And we need to think about how do we work hard pedagogically to take information and showcase it in a way that an hour public lecture can do a lot of what a class is doing for students. And so at the Human Learning Partnership, we work with people who are making maps to give spatial data a real quick and snappy appearance so that the picture does count for 1,000 words. And we work with other people in visualization and communication strengths to say, what does it mean to take this complicated finding from research and boil it down to a couple of sentences that can jolt the population to be talking about it? It takes work, it takes time, but I think UBC's vision of what we want to be as an intellectual space, it has made a really savvy commitment to doing the non-traditional excellently side by side with excelling traditionally. And that's why I think UBC should take real pride that it not only wants to train the next best and bright adult minds here, but it wants to make a more robust debate across this country by allocating faculty time to be public intellectuals.